Cowboys, Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, we are back for another Chicago Bears game preview as they go back home to Soldier Field to take on the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm once again joined by Isaiah Fry. How you doing, Isaiah?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm holding up. All Bears fans are kind of going crazy right now. Not how we expected to start the season, 0-2. Especially 0-2 to start the division as well. So now the Chicago Bears, when you're looking at the division, are already in a hole. So I just want to ask you before we go any further, what's your initial reaction to the 52-21 loss to the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I mean, it's as bad as they come. I think watching the game, you can see the deficiencies of the team, which is the defense. Obviously, I think everybody can see that. There's just a lot of work to be done still, and I think seeing that in the first two games is hard to swallow. But there were some positives as well on the offensive side of the ball. So there's some things to look forward to, but man, there's a lot of holes that need to be patched up.
Yeah, it definitely humbles you as a fan. And of course, we were all excited going into the new season. And with all the additions to the offensive line and the NFL draft with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams going into year two. But I think we also should have had an understanding that, A, it's going to take time, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Mentioning the positives, I do feel that Caleb Williams took a step forward, granted, despite the score, 19 for 30, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw that one really stupid interception. I believe it was in the first half or early in the second half. And obviously the connection between him and Rome Odunze continues to grow. Rome had 7 catches for 128 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. I think the real big issue of this game was the Chicago Bears defense giving up 511 total yards to the Lions.
Yeah, watching the game, it just looked like Jared Goff was super comfortable in that pocket. He had no type of pressure. And, the DBs didn't play their best, but, as we talked about before, the pass rush and the coverage go hand in hand. So if one of them lacks, specifically the pass rush, that I don't care if you got prime Deion Sanders, Rod Woodson, and Charles Woodson back there, man. It's going to be a tough get. So they got to figure out a way to create pressure because it's exposing the whole defense right now.
Yeah, you're only as good as your defensive line, and that's why I'm trying not to crash out on a guy like Tyreek Stevenson. I did mention the stat, and your eyes got wide on me before the podcast, saying that teams that are targeting Tyreek Stevenson have a perfect passer rating of 158.3. And it's one of those things that it's not all his fault. I think it's hard to cover a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown for a long period of time. He also has a difficult matchup this Sunday. Rather, it's George Pickens or a CeeDee Lamb. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think Dennis Allen has to figure out creative ways to get pressure. Rather, it's bringing Jaquan Brisker into the box and maybe sending safety blitz from time to time. Obviously, the defensive line is not good enough just to win with their front four.
Yeah, he had a rough game. There's got to be honest about it. I think a lot of the plays, though, watching it, came from play action, doing those over routes. That's a hard cover for any corner. That play requires a lot of time to develop, and if it gets the time to develop, it's almost it's probably a 67% completion rate if they have time to throw it. So that just goes back to what we spoke about before, that the pressure has to improve to help those guys out, especially them being so young back there right now. Jalen Johnson's not in there. Kyler Gordon's not playing. All they really have of a returner right now at corner is Tyreek Stevenson. So that lack of pressure, man, is going to show, and it's showing early.
Yeah, and they have another tough matchup once again against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of minutes. I do want to get your opinion on how you felt after watching the game, how you felt that Caleb Williams played. I know that I believed or felt that he did take a small step forward. Rather, with the score or not, I do feel that he did take a step forward.
Yeah, definitely. He did some things that you can be happy to see in the future. I think with him, it's just developing consistency. He does make some boneheaded plays every now and then, but that's expected. He's only a second-year player, but he makes some throws on the opposite side that are like, wow, like this is legit, man. So if he can just start taking those bad plays away and minimize them to a very small amount, I think he's going to turn into a really good quarterback in this league. It's just going to take some time and some work. We got to give him grace, though. He's still a second year player, regardless at the end of the day.
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Dan Orlowski, which is a huge critic of Caleb Williams, and he was, one of the first ones. Even despite all the moves that the Chicago Bears made during the offseason, he was like, "Hey, Bears fans, I know you're excited, but just temper your expectations.
Right.
Don't rush to conclusions." He's like, because the first couple of games are not going to be the games that you're expecting with the amount of talent you have on the outsides. I think the Bears fans, and I even got caught into this situation as well. I was like, hey, he may come out and throw 300 plus yards from week one. But that was never going to be the case because Ben Johnson's offense is very complex. And just like Dan Orlowski mentioned earlier in the offseason, Caleb Williams was used to playing one style of football for so long, and that was Superman ball, hero
Hmm.
ball.
Right.
Now Ben Johnson's asking him to do more complex things. He's not trying to change Caleb Williams, but he does want Caleb Williams to play more within the pocket and the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think what people, Bears fans can be excited about and look from the past and see what Caleb can, the trajectory he can get up to is look how Jared Goff looked when he
Yeah,
first got there. I mean, he was decent, but he wasn't the Jared Goff that we know today
right.
and last year. So I think, we as fans and outsiders, I say myself as a fan now because I'm watching from the
Yeah,
TV.
yeah,
We got to give players time to develop, man. I think
right.
that comes from just we always everybody wants the now. It's like no, it's still at
Exactly.
the end of the day, you got to get time, you got to get reps, and then one day it's just gonna click.
Yeah, so just patience with the young man. You do see some amazing things. There's still some things that needs to work on, and that's just a total overall organization. There's a lot of people that need to work on many different things, but I'm not giving up on the man. And I know you know that about me, that I'm a very
Yeah.
loyal person to my quarterbacks, right? So I'm excited to see him continuing to grow. And as we talk about this Cowboys game, there's going to be some opportunities for him to possibly have a big game along with the Chicago Bears offense as well. But Isaiah, before we move on to the Cowboys pregame, I was talking to you a little bit before we started this recording about the possibility of the Chicago Bears being active at the trade deadline in regard to the running back position. This came via, I don't really want to call a report, from an ESPN insider. I forgot the name. I don't have it on me, but it came from an ESPN insider. And he says, after watching kind of DeAndre Swift kind of struggling, which I don't really think DeAndre Swift has been struggling. The running game could definitely be better. And then, obviously Kyle Monunga and Roshan Johnson not really making an impact right now, but I think those guys can be better. How do you feel about the idea of the Chicago Bears maybe adding a running back at the trade deadline? And I know we're kind of going, fast forward here. We're only 2 weeks into the season, but maybe with names like Alvin Kamara, right, with the Saints struggling, maybe I believe Travis Etienne Jr. from the Jags, maybe if they continue to struggle, would that be an idea that you think the Chicago Bears should consider maybe adding a running back to the cycle?
I mean, if it can improve your team, you always look at it. I think those names you mentioned. I mean, you obviously need to listen. Those are really good running backs. But on the other side of the token is DeAndre Swift is not the reason why the
No.
Chicago Bears are losing right now. So, you know, it's cool to kind of find somebody to get upset about and say that he's not doing his job to the best of his ability. But it's like everything goes hand in hand. And as we talked about before, the offensive line is, according to experts who are watching these lanes being created are doing a great job. So I mean, even with him, man, I mean, I know he's not a young player no more, but this is this is a whole new not a scheme. He's played for Ben Johnson before, but it's going to take some time. So, but if you can improve your roster, you always take that opportunity to do it. I would say, man, if they needed to look for someone to trade, they need to get another D lineman. That's my personal opinion.
That part.
I would look there first before I even look anywhere else.
That part, and talking about DeAndre Swift, 29 carries, 116 yards. I'm averaging 4 yards per carry and 1 touchdown to start his campaign. I think where the conversation is coming from is that they're looking for more of a downhill runner that can pass block as well. But you kind of have that in Kyle Monunga and Roshan Johnson, but you're just not really giving them the opportunity quite yet. So I would love to see Ben Johnson incorporate more of Monunga and Johnson, and then if you're still having the same issues, right, and you're, sitting at 0-4, you may be sellers yourself, but then if you
Yeah,
want to upgrade that position, that's when you move forward. I think it would be very, not a smart move by Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, the Bears organization, just to rush to conclusions when you haven't really seen what you have in Monangai and Johnson within your offense.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And running back is one of those positions, man. It's just like, especially in today's age, you don't necessarily need to go out and sell the farm to go get you one, man. You can develop one. That's the position now. Like you get a guy with some good vision and a little bit of burst, man. He's gonna have some success. So, like you said, I think that's the perfect way they should go, man. Is work those other guys and see what they can do to kind of add to that whole offense.
Yeah, and we'll see what Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson do as the season and the trade deadline comes up, and I believe it's the end of October is the trade deadline. I pictured after the Chicago Bears continue to struggle, they will more than likely be sellers, and I talked about that the other day, that maybe guys like DJ Moore or Montez Sweat, even Jalen Johnson, could be up for grabs because maybe they don't really fit what Ben Johnson's looking for in their culture. You never know what can happen towards the trade deadline. So now let's go ahead and look into this Dallas Cowboys game. Obviously, the Cowboys are coming off a overtime thriller against the New York Giants. That was a very, very intriguing game. The Bears are coming off a blowout loss to the Detroit Lions. So Cowboys are 1-1. Bears are 0-2. Obviously, Matt Eberflus is coming back to Chicago, Soldier Field. I cannot wait to see how Bears fans welcome him. It's probably not going to be too pretty. There's probably going to be a lot of boos. The Cowboys are currently a 1.5-point favorite, which kind of shocks me a little bit just because how bad the Bears have looked.
Right.
But as we're going to discuss here shortly, the Dallas Cowboys defense doesn't look much better than the Bears. So what is your initial reaction to this game against the Dallas Cowboys?
Initial reaction is I do think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm afraid for the Bears defense because
Right.
I've watched a few Cowboys games, a couple that they played, and Dak looks really good this year. I'm not gonna lie, this is the best I've seen Dak play in a long time,
Yeah.
and I can see him having a really good game this Sunday. So I think, the Bears offense is going to have to keep them in the game for it to be competitive at the end.
Yeah, a couple of notes. You mentioned Dak Prescott, 59 for 86, 549 yards, two passing touchdowns to one interception. And I do want to note that, both J.J. McCarthy and Jared Goff won NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and they both played the Chicago Bears in back-to-back weeks. So that's not a very good trend to start the season. And I've always felt that Dak Prescott was always able to play at an MVP level. Their problem is just when they get to the playoffs, they're not a very good playoff team, right? But in the regular season, they have everything possible, especially on the offensive side of the football, to make things happen. When we're looking at some injuries, of course, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and TJ Edwards are some of the key players that are going to be out for the Chicago Bears. But the Dallas Cowboys are also going to be without Deron Bland, one of their top cornerbacks on that defense side of the football. So it's one of those things that, like you mentioned, it's going to be a very high scoring game. I think the current total right now is 50.5 total points. So I think Vegas is expecting a shootout, and that's why I mentioned earlier on in this episode that I expect Caleb Williams to take a huge step forward, and this offense to take a huge step forward as well.
Absolutely. Hey, he's gotten better for the last 2 weeks. So we can expect some more improvement this next week. And like I said earlier, it's going to come down if they want to have a chance to win this game, it's going to come down to the offense and how well he performs. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to improve from last week as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and then when we're looking at just offense versus defense for both teams, the Cowboys are third in total yards after 2 games, averaging a little bit over 401 total yards. Bears defense is giving up 387 total yards a game. And when you're looking at the Bears offense, they're 14th in total yards, averaging 348 and a half total yards a game. And the Cowboys defense gives up 422 yards a game, which is significant because Matt Eberflus is now running the show. So my concern now here, Isaiah, for this game is, I think early on, the Chicago Bears will go toe-to-toe. I just think the Cowboys defense is a little bit better than our defense because I think they will be able to generate a little bit more pressure on Caleb Williams than we will be able to generate on Dak Prescott. And I think that's going to be the huge key of the game. And really the only key of this game is which defense can actually make a stop.
Right. I agree. I think the advantage that Chicago has that I don't think gets talked about enough is for Caleb, he's seen this defense a lot
Right.
in practice, and that's a bigger deal than people make out to be,
It
because
is.
he's going to know the tendencies that Eberflus likes to do, because before we start game planning for teams and stuff, that's who they practice against. So
Right.
I actually see that being a very, very big advantage for Caleb, and having some success this week.
Right. And I know that we've had, so many conversations about Eberflus because he was the Bears head coach for the last couple of years. You've obviously been very familiar with Eberflus's system as well. And this is a guy that doesn't like to bring pressure. He tries to win with his front four. And he's that type of coach that he doesn't really switch up his style of defense. And I think he's basically in the same situation as Dennis Allen, that his front four is just not currently winning. So it seems that both Dak Prescott and Caleb Williams will have a bunch of time to throw. And that's why I bring up the question, who is going to make more stops in this football game? I would
Right.
love to see the Chicago Bears offense go to toe-to-toe, but they have even had some issues being consistent in terms of sustaining drives and still dealing with pre-snap penalties from the offensive linemen and all that good stuff. So there's so many factors in this game, but it's just like with the early season Bears, and I mentioned this prior to the start of the season, it's very good for all these teams that are playing the Chicago Bears early, because you're not going to want to see the Chicago Bears later in the season because they're still trying to figure things out. Hopefully this game, with the very favorable defense against the Dallas Cowboys, hopefully the Bears offense can finally take that huge step forward, because this could definitely be a confidence boost, not only for a young quarterback in Caleb Williams, but the entirety of the Bears offense as well.
Absolutely. They I think they need to see improvement on both sides of the ball. It has to happen. Specifically, the defense. They have to make a few stops that impact the game, and that's going to benefit them, and not only this game, but the next few weeks after as well. Like you said, for the confidence thing. So you know, there has to be some improvement. There's no question about it, and I don't doubt it. Dennis Allen's a good coach. He's going to figure it out. That's one thing he's going to do, is going to work his butt off to figure it out. So I expect to see probably some more pressures dialed up this week for them to create on their own.
Yeah, you look at Dallas, and they have CeeDee Lamb, they have George Pickens, obviously Javonte Williams, the running back they got over from Denver, is playing with a new purpose over there in Dallas as well. So it's definitely going to be a high scoring game. Both defenses definitely have their flaws. So to me, I understand why now Vegas looks at this game as, because originally it was just a pick 'em game, right? They didn't
Right.
have a line of 1.5 or 2.5. It was a pick 'em. So I think Vegas thinks this is going to be a high scoring game, but also a very close game as well. So Isaiah, let's go ahead and not waste any time. Go ahead and give me your final score prediction for this Cowboys Bears game on Sunday.
So unfortunately, I got Chicago losing, just because I didn't like what I seen from the defense last week. But I think there is going to be improvement. So I have them losing 30-27.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. I have confidence in Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, and I feel like the offense will have a big day. I think you'll see another big day from Rome. I think DJ Moore will get involved. I think you may even see the tight ends get more involved in this game, which has been a huge storyline over the first 2 weeks between Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet not really getting involved. But I just don't think our defense can stop a cold right now. We get no pressure, and our secondary at that is just depleted right now.
Right.
So I unfortunately have the Chicago Bears losing by a score. I'm going to say 37-27.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but we just can't stop a cold right now, which is okay.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
I just want to ask you before we sign off on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, do you think Matt Eberflus is going to get a warm welcome from the Bears fans? And do you think Caleb Williams will actually speak to Matt Eberflus?
First one, absolutely no. He's not getting a warm welcome, and I think they'll speak. I think they're cordial still. I think you have professional relationships that you keep moving on. Everybody in the buildings understand, man. This is it's a job at the end of the day, but that doesn't negate the fact that we might still like each other as people. So
Yeah.
I expect them to at least say hello and go about their business.
Yeah, it was actually funny because the Cowboys head coach was, did a little interview, and he's like, all we want to do is, when we beat Chicago, we're going to give Matt Eberflus the game ball and all that stuff. So he's already manifesting if they're going to come in and beat the Bears. And if I'm, Ben Johnson in the defense, I would take that personal. And, and I know that Caleb wants this one bad.
What is he saying it for? Are they saying it as far as the fact like Eberflus got done wrong over here? Is that what they're saying, or is it? I don't.
I don't know what they're saying. I think
was he done dirty?
They just want Matt Eberflus to win this game.
I got you.
But by the stats, it looks like it's not going well as the defense coordinator over there with the Cowboys right now. And granted, you did lose your best pass rusher, Micah Parsons, but still, it doesn't look like you're doing a very good job over there.
Give up 30 points, you still get the game ball. That's crazy. Okay, yeah,
right, exactly. You may win the game, but no thanks to you, right? That's
right, exactly, right.
It's just crazy. How you get the game ball after giving up 30?
Right, part of the group project didn't do none of the work. That's all good.
Exactly. But Isaiah, as always, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. It's always a good talk. And like I said, every year we expect something different, and hopefully we're going in the right direction because, our dream is to talk about a winning Bears team. And I think it's still a long process, but I think we have the right coach in place in Ben Johnson.
We'll be there soon. Yeah, you guys, what Joel and B say, you got to trust the process, man. It's like everything's a process. So we'll be there at some point.
For sure. As always, Bears fans, make sure you guys drop your prediction down below in the comment section. It should be a pretty high-scoring and fun game, but obviously both Isaiah and I have the Chicago Bears losing. So let us know what your prediction is down below in the comment section. But as always, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan you know. But other than that, be back for our all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
Bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.